Hi guys, welcome to another recipe with me here at the Aspiring Home Cook. Today I've got one of my most favorite South Indian treats in store for you. These deep fried lentil vadas or Urad Dal Vadas are absolutely fantastic. Now I'm a big fan of South Indian food, but a lot of the idlis and the dosas, the kind of stuff that I really like, calls for hours and hours of soaking and fermentation. And that's what I love about this recipe. It calls for about 20 minutes of soaking time for the lentils, and everything else from there on is really quick. Before we get on to the recipe, if this is your first time visiting my channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button below and click on that bell icon to get all the latest updates. So let's go ahead and make these vadas. Now, since these are lentil fritters, let's talk about the lentils first. For these vadas or fritters, I've used Urad Dal. Now you can find Urad Dal in packets like this at any Indian grocery store. You're going to need 1 cup of Urad Dal, 2 tablespoons of rice flour, quarter of an onion finely chopped, a couple of chillies, we're going to use those finely chopped as well, and a sprig of curry leaves. You're also going to need quarter teaspoon of freshly cracked black pepper, some salt to taste, and oil for deep frying. We're going to get our lentils ready for the recipe now. So into a large bowl goes the 1 cup of lentils, and we're going to start by washing this. Now pass the lentils under some running cold water and run your fingers through it to get rid of any impurities. I'm going to drain this water and repeat this process about 3 to 4 times. You'll notice that with each time you do this, that water gets a little clearer. Now cover the lentils with some fresh cold water and set this aside to soak for about 20 minutes. While the lentils are soaking, you can actually prep the rest of your ingredients and make your chutney. If you'd like to see how I make a beautiful coconut chutney to use as a dip for these fritters, come back soon because that's going to be in my next video. Now these lentils have been soaking for 20 minutes in cold water. I'm now going to drain that water and run it through some fresh cold water for one last time and drain that as well. You are now ready to make your batter. To make your batter, you're first going to start by grinding the lentils into a paste. I'm going to use the blender jar of my mixer grinder. You can also use a food processor if you've got one handy. Now with this paste, the consistency is extremely important, so remember to use very little water to grind it. I'm also going to grind these lentils in 2 batches to ensure that I get a good thick paste without having to add too much water. If your batter is extremely runny, it's going to absorb a lot more oil and the fritters will not hold their shape. So start off with a couple of tablespoons of water just to get your blender going, and you can add more water as needed later on. It's very hard to thicken your batter if too much water goes in. So it's best to add your water gradually. You're now going to blitz that for a couple of minutes till you're left with a coarse paste. Now this is what it looks like about a minute into the grinding. I'm going to scrape the sides of the blender just to make sure that any of the lentils that haven't had an opportunity to grind actually get ground. And I say that this paste is fairly thick, so I'm going to add another tablespoon or so of water to get it going. Put the lid on and blitz it for another minute or so. And when you're left with a beautiful paste like this, you know that your batter is ready. Again, you're looking for a paste that's slightly on the coarse side. You're not looking for a fine runny paste. So when you actually spread a little bit of that batter onto your fingers, you may come across a little grainy texture, and that's perfectly fine. Now empty this batter into a large bowl and you can continue grinding the rest of your lentils. Now with all my lentils ground and the batter placed into a large bowl, I'm just going to give this a little bit of a mix. Now this consistency that you see right here is a little too thick for the vadas we'll be making today. So I'm going to add about a tablespoon or so of water and stir it well. You can adjust the amount of water that you need based on how thick or runny your batter is. Add the water about a tablespoon at a time and mix the batter thoroughly before you add the next tablespoon of water. Now at this stage, I'm going to add the rest of my ingredients, starting with the rice flour. Now the rice flour will thicken the batter up a tiny bit, so stir it in with a little bit of salt first and then adjust the consistency of your batter until you've achieved somewhat of a dropping consistency like you'll see here. This is what you're looking for. So when you take about a tablespoon of the batter and raise it above the bowl, it should drop down fairly easily like so. Now add your finely chopped onion, the chopped chilies, and you're going to take your curry leaves and just roughly tear them into the batter. So grabbing a few leaves at a time, just break them down into smaller pieces and add them to the batter. Add in about a quarter tablespoon's worth of freshly cracked black pepper and stir everything through well so that it's all incorporated. And this is the consistency that you're looking for once everything's mixed through. At this stage, check for seasoning and add more salt to the batter if you need to and mix well. Now, if you find that your batter is not at this consistency, feel free to add a tiny bit more water. In all, I think I've added about a quarter cup's worth of water into the batter. Please remember that the amount of water that you will need will differ maybe even each time you make this recipe because it depends on the rice flour you use as well as the lentils that you use. And your batter is now ready to fry. Line a large tray with some kitchen paper and set this aside. I've got some oil heating in a wok over some medium-high heat. You're going to check if the oil is hot enough by dropping a tiny bit of the batter into the oil. If it comes up to the surface almost immediately, like you've seen here, your oil is ready to go. Make sure you've got the oil going on a medium heat because you don't want your fritters to burn on the outside and stay raw on the inside. Now I use a teaspoon to drop the batter into the oil. Another thing to keep in mind here is that the larger your fritter, the more the chances of it staying uncooked in the center. I find that the best quantity that works for me is about a teaspoon's worth of batter for each fritter. So carefully drop about a teaspoon's worth batter into the oil like so. And when they've started browning on the edges, gently turn them over and make sure they're fried on both sides. Now you'll need to flip the fritters over a couple of times before they are thoroughly cooked. But again, don't get tempted to increase the heat too much or you're going to end up with a crusty exterior but uncooked or undercooked center. So slow and steady is the way to go with these. Now once you're happy with the shade of golden brown your fritters are, you're going to take them out of the oil, drain away the excess oil and pop these fritters onto the tray lined with kitchen paper to absorb any excess oil. And you're going to continue with this process to cook the fritters in batches until you're done with all your batter. And this is what the lentil fritters or vadas look like once they're all fried up. Now let's have a look at what they look like on the inside. I'm going to break into one just to show you. You've got a nice crunchy exterior but inside the fritter is still light and fluffy. Serve this up with some beautiful coconut chutney and watch them disappear. So friends, I hope you enjoyed this recipe. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and give this video a thumbs up. Share this video with your family and friends that you think may enjoy a recipe like this. As always, the complete recipe will be linked in the description box below. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll see you again really soon with another delicious recipe. So till then, take care. Bye.